Next up, at UFC Vegas 102, we have the featured fight of the evening. Ismael Bonfim taking on Nazim Sadykhov. Ismael Bonfim, 20-4 in his career, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off the bounce-back win over Vince Pichel. Taking on Nazim Sadykhov. Nazim Sadykhov, 9-1 in his career, 4-0-1 in his last 5. He's coming off that draw with Vaishlav Borshev in 2023. This is a pretty fun breakdown and a pretty fun fight. We got Ismael Bonfim. And yes, a couple fights ago, he got a little bit of a fraud checked. He has bounced back since then. He beat from hell Vince Pichel, and he seems to be back on track. He's exactly like his brother who he broke down earlier. He's got some power in his hands. He moves forward. He's got good technical boxing, although it doesn't look like that in his fights because lots of looping power shots instead of just straight right up the middle. He can work in some jiu-jitsu as well, some flying knees. He gets creative. He's far more aggressive between the two. He takes his chances, but he can be accurate, he can be powerful, and he can have solid defense if he takes his time. His actual boxing experience is pretty high level, as is the BJJ. And I mentioned he's coming off that decision win over Vince Pichel, where he effectively doubled the strikes. He's taking on Nazim Sadykhov. Nazim Sadykhov is a solid kickboxer with speed and power, but he's not reckless. He takes his time. He finds his opening. He plots forward. He counter strikes and strikes at the same time while moving forward. While he is patient, he can occasionally work in unnecessary spin attacks, and that actually led to his only ever professional loss. He's coming off that draw with Vaishlav, where he was losing early, a few well-timed takedowns, and a knockdown made those scorecards pretty interesting. This is a good matchup. Should be a really fun fight to watch, and I love that the UFC put this together. I love that they're not just giving Ismael an easy win, and I love that Nazim... Actually, I wish Nazim would get a couple easier fights. He's really only had some tough fights up until this point. But this should be a really, really fun fight. But before I give you the pick, let's look at Nazim's wins. He is very good. Don't get me wrong. But he was losing to Evan Elder. And then Evan Elder, as lock of the week, who was winning that fight, got a cut in his head, and the ref stopped the fight. Just because
Never seen that before in my life. Evan Elder... Lock of the week, up 2-0, coasting, doing everything I said he would. Little cut above the eyebrow. Typically in the middle of a round, especially in the third round when somebody's like obviously winning, you kind of just let that go unless it gets even worse. The second that fucking cut happened, they stopped the fight to let the doctor look at it. The doctor's like, oh my God, look at this, so much blood. And they fucking stopped the fight. But do you know who Nazim is best friends with now?
Who?
Evan Elder. They're boys now. They train together. That's a good dude to train with. I love Evan Elder, man. That's a tough son of a bitch.
Meanwhile, they let Irene Aldana fight with half her face hanging off. But so there was that fight. There's that win on paper, TKO win, but it was a cut in a fight that he was losing 2 full rounds. Then he goes ahead. He fights Terrence McKinney. He was losing that fight too, and then Terrence did what he does. And then he was losing to Vaishlav before he ended up taking over. And obviously those are real wins. And Nazim is not a quitter, and if he was a quitter, he would have lost those fights. But because he's tough and because he doesn't stop, he won all 3 of those fights. All 3 fights that he was losing and was able to turn the tide. The only reason I mention all of that is this is a very... Fine.
But he should have won. I mean, that guy was fucking...
Yeah, he was dumb.
If you watch that knock, because he wobbles him, then he knocks him down. Dude, Slava was just like this, frozen, eyes like this, not responding to fucking the follow-up shots, but the ref hadn't gotten there in time. By the time the ref got in there, he hit him in the face like 7 times, where Slava like halfway woke up and like just started grabbing him, and the ref was like, oh, he's fine. Dude, he was like stiff like this with his eyes like fucking wide open, and fucking Nazim is fucking stupid. He should have got the finish, but...
I agree. And I think I bet on Vaishlav there, so I was happy with the push, but it is what it is. This is just such a tricky fight to break down because this could look exactly like the Terrence McKinney fight or any of them, where Ismael has a lot of early success and then Nazim is durable, takes over, and wins. I am going to pick Ismael. And the only reason I'm going to pick him is because of that Vince Pichel fight. We saw a more controlled. We saw straight punches instead of throwing baseballs. We saw a guy who kept the pressure, kept the pace. The cardio didn't die on him. He fought a guy, yes, older in Vince, but Vince is a cardio machine. I think that was a great win for Ismael. He showed that he can fight long. He showed that he can fight controlled. And he's going to need that here because I think if you pressure Nazim and you stay in his face and you're busy, the exact same way Evan Elder was, you can back him up and you could have some success. So I think Ismael Bonfim wins this fight, but another fight with some interesting odds. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, I think Ismael is a little bit overrated in what he does, and what he does, I think, matches well with what Nazim wants to do, because Nazim is, I mean, every time I see him, this guy is improving, because I think a lot of people, you included, and I can't remember how I broke it down, thought him walking into a fight versus Slava. I mean, Slava, we just saw, was a favorite against Tom Nolan in his hometown, because he is such a high-level striker that people were like, it's just going to be a little bit too much for Nazim. He was getting touched up a little bit, obviously by Evan Elder. Terrence was able to control him, but there were situations in that fight as well. He's going to come in Slava. He's not going to have enough. And he looked fucking really good in the striking. I know he dropped the first round striking, but from the progression that we saw from the Evan Elder fight to that Slava fight in the striking is like, doesn't even look like the same person. Nice higher guard, was slipping shots. A lot of those shots that Slava was landing, and visually it looks like he was, and I'm not saying he didn't win those rounds, because he did. He was out striking Nazim. But a lot of it's just landing on the guard. He was trying to work the body, but Nazim is a tough son of a bitch. Good cardio. Ismael, in my opinion, is going to get caught up in the game of, I'm hitting him, let me hang out in the pocket. And when Ismael throws these strikes in the pocket, he is not a technical guy. He comes in and he will lead with a big body shot, and his arms are out here, and he's trying to land shots around the guard because he trusts his power and he wants to land the big shots. And when you're out here and somebody's covering up and you think you're landing and you're not, and all of a sudden one of those big shots come with the counters, I think on the feet this matches up well with a guy like Nazim. That high guard is going to treat him well. Ismael is already a high confidence guy. He's going to be landing on the guard thinking, I'm fucking lighting this guy up. The big counter shot's going to be there. And even if what Nazim wants to rely on the wrestling, I think he can wrestle this guy for 3 rounds and just outwork him in that right as well. I don't think Ismael's going to be able to get the takedowns and the control that we saw with the Terrence McKinney, right? Kind of controlled the entire first round. But even when he was controlled, right? He stalled. He's staying safe. He's not getting choked out. Eventually, at the end of that round, he bought his time, reversed the position, was landing elbows to end the first round. So I like Nazim here, the Black Wolf, to get it done. Feel pretty good about it, too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I get it. I picked Bonfim, but I fully recognize how good Nazim is. So
I mean, he looked slick, and so he was fucking throwing some nice, clean combinations that I don't think anybody saw coming, because that was not the same fighter as Evan Elder. And I have a track record of, usually when I pick against you for lock of the week, I always pick against you because I think that you just kind of suck forever. Nazim is not that dude. He is improving. He's one of those guys. Vince Morales, Marab, there's a lot of good. He's at Syndicate. We just saw a few weeks ago, Muin is at Syndicate. And you saw him come in and just looking fucking fantastic. Sharp as shit. Marab was looking sharp as shit. There's a lot of good stuff going on at Syndicate, and I think Nazim shows even a next level of where his game is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's not a hill I'm going to die on picking the Bonfim. I know you picked against both Bonfims. So, right. And last time they both fought on a card together, said parlay them. And that parlay hit. This time, could have the anti-Bonfim parlay. They're both favorites, so that would be quite the payday.
Nazim, here's what I'll say.
Yeah, wait till you take a huge fucking mouthful of ice.
There's one ice cube. Let's relax. Nazim looked better in a loss to Slava, in my opinion, than Ismael looked in a win versus 40-year-old Vince Pichel.
Say that again?
Nazim, even though he lost the fight, I guess it was a draw, but he lost 2 rounds. He should have got the finish, honestly. It should have been a finish. Nazim looked better in that draw with improvements that he's made against Slava more than Ismael looked good against a 40-year-old Vince Pichel. I know he won the fight. It was 30-27.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know, because Ismael didn't look bad at all in that fight. Nazim did look bad early against Vaislov, and then he turned it on.
He never looked
He was losing. He was getting touched up.
That's the whole point. He still looks better with the combinations, the way he's throwing strikes, than just fighting a 40-year-old Vince Pichel.
I'm not going to agree with that statement.
I just don't think you understand.
I understand what you're saying. I disagree
you don't.
with the statement. I get it. I disagree. $8,400 in DraftKings Fantasy for Ismael. I actually don't know what to do with that, because I think this goes to a decision. I think it's some solid back and forth. They both have some success. I think it's a close fight. I don't think it's a blowout on either side. I just love that I saw Ismael controlled, because that controlled, that pace, that guy can do well here. But that guy also doesn't score really well in DraftKings Fantasy. So I don't know what to do here. I might just leave it up to the DraftKings Optimizer or the Fight Simulator, see what that tells me to do, and then go from there. If you do want to unlock all the picks, the bets, the tools, the bets from 4 different people, 3 people and a robot, actually. If you want to see all of the tools, all the picks, and the picks are from 4 people and a robot. The round line leans, everything we have to offer. It's $10 for all of it in one package. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. You unlock it for an entire month. That month will include UFC 313. We have a $27.99 Canadian.
Carter Harrington says, no relation to Al Harrington, unfortunately. Just a white dude from Nova Scotia. Shout out to the Slippery Noodle in Indy. If you know, you know. Slippery Noodle, get this off my fucking screen.
What the hell is a Slippery Noodle?
Slippery Noodle, Angelo, is a little kinky spot there on the south side that if you're a single male after 11 o'clock, it gets pretty slippery, as they say. That's a jazz bar on the south side. It's right on South Street, just south of, what do you even call that place? Gamebridge now? It's just a jazz bar is all it was. You know, actually.
That's a wild name for a jazz bar.
I had to do I was like in a music fucking elective class or something, and I had to like go to a live performance and like write a report on something. You had to like go watch live music. And I actually went to the Slippery Noodle just to sit there with my girlfriend, have a drink, and listen to some jazz. It's cool. It's one of those old, cities have those old bars or whatever. It's just part of the culture of Indianapolis, and not a bad place to be. Like tight little corridors, and
yeah. There's this bar we go to in New York when I have to go for work. I think it's called the Black Duck or something like that. It's the oldest bar in the country. And it's tiny and old as fuck, and it's like downstairs, like underground.
You don't think the Native Americans had anything like that?
They didn't have a bar, no bar.
So?
No bar.
I think they had a hookah bar. They're peace pipes.
Hookah is not Native American. You're just kind of mixing up.
Would you have felt comfortable being one of those people that gave the Native American smallpox blankets?
No, I'm a good dude. I always do right. I'm a big karma guy. Where it's just, I try to do the right thing. Although, I have been watching Beast Games on Amazon with the family. Great. That show is incredible. And there was, I don't want to ruin it for you, because it is still
And you're saying
airing.
That place that you're talking about was a Turkish bath?
And so I'm watching Beast Games. And there's a situation where there's 4 people up there, and they were offered $1 million. The prize to win the show is $5 million. These 4 people, and they have a team of, I don't know, let's say 50 behind them, were offered $1 million. And if you accepted the $1 million, that is your money to keep, and you still stay in the game. And the only thing that happens is your team gets eliminated, and nobody took it. And it's just like, what the fuck?
$1 million these days isn't enough.
The max prize in the show.
If that was 1995, everyone's taking a fucking $1 million. But now, I've had this conversation with you. I think is like one of the worst things that could ever happen. Not ever happen in your life, but it would be awful to win $1 million in the lottery because you can't fucking retire. So now you got to work knowing that there's
and you have $1 million.
Yeah, there's a fucking $1 million, and you still got to go to work.
So. Trap says Angela would have taken it in seconds. Yes, I would have. It's a competition show that only one person can win, and you're there to win.
Yeah, anything's fair. There's no karma in fucking competition. I don't give a fuck about anything.
Dude,
fuck
the worst part is 2 things.
That's like it's like when you're watching a fighter and they knock their mouthpiece out, and they're like, "Oh, go ahead and pick up your mouthpiece."
Yeah, it's a fist fight.
I don't give a fuck about that. Punch him in the soccer kick him. What the fuck are we doing here?
So. Nobody took the $1 million, which was crazy because, first of all, it's $1 million guaranteed and you still stay in the game. It also instantly improves your odds of winning the show because now 50 people are gone. So now you're in a better situation than you were just in. It's a competition show. These people don't know each other, right? Some people know each other, but they're like, I would never do that to my team. You know these people for 11 minutes. and somebody offered you
that's
$1 million.
Like Big Brother when they're there for 2 weeks and they're crying about somebody. It's like, what are you doing, man?
Dude, it's crazy.
If me and Angelo on Big Brother,
I'm
backstabbing Angelo. I don't give a fuck. Obviously, we're going to try to work together. We know each other, but if it push comes to shove, then I got to save myself. I'm not going to be crying and being like, oh, I got Angelo done. It's like fucking, hopefully I win it. Maybe I give you some, Big Ange. Sorry, buddy. See you later.
It's funny because I said to Tiffany while we were watching, I was like, Big Brother people would run through this show. What is this fake loyalty? This is crazy. You don't know these people. Then the very next competition was like, get with your closest friends. And then they all got shoved in a box. And there was 3 people in every box. And one person had to be eliminated. There's 3 of you. One of you, you have 5 hours to decide who loses this show and the 2 that get to stay. We don't care how you agree, but it has to be a unanimous decision. You don't vote. It's unanimous, all 3 of you. One of the dudes who sacrificed the $1 million for everybody ended up getting eliminated. His team that karma didn't come around. It's like, you dumb it. And they asked him, this was actually a phenomenal line. And he said, the line was phenomenal. Mr. Beast was, and I hate calling it the 20-year-old Mr. Jimmy goes, do you regret not taking the $1 million? And this is a great line.
He's the one that turned into a girl?
No, he hired the person who turned into a girl that was in the Discord asking for things. Jimmy goes, do you regret not taking the $1 million? And this guy goes, I liked myself as a person and my life before the $1 million, and I like it now. And it's like, all right, great line. But of course you regret.
Hey, you fucking idiots. $1 million, you're getting $500,000, right? And then if you want to, somebody's like, just throw it in the S&P. What money are you going to live off of, right? And then when you're taking that out yearly, you got to pay taxes on the earnings for that as well. You're not going to make, what are you making a year on the S&P? 10% of that? And then you got to pay taxes on the 10% that you make off the $500K. What are we doing here? Let's grow up. It's not enough to live off of. Yeah, you can have some fun for a while, but you're not going to be able to fucking retire and live for the next 50 years on $1 million. Grow up.
I mean, maybe in Kentucky, middle of nowhere.
No, not anymore.
$50,000
Even
house.
those houses. I'm looking at houses in Indiana that are fucking still $350,000 for fucking nothing.